Welcome to Law Day. My name is Capri Maddox, and I'm an attorney and the first executive director of the LA Civil Human Rights and Equity Department, also known as LA Civil Rights. It is our honor to bring you this program today and to welcome so many incredible speakers. We have had many members of our team that are interested in law school, and we also have folks from our team that have recently completed law school. And one of the folks that organized this event, Nicole Bryant, is a recent graduate of Southwestern Law, and we are so grateful to have her as our department's chief of operations. I want to give a huge thanks to our Team LA Civil Rights, particularly Mark Pamperman and Roxy Nordican, who really did so much work in the space. And I can't thank the entire staff, but you know who you are. And definitely, I'd like to go on to thank our opening speakers, Councilmember Paul Krekorian, LA City Human Relations Commissioner Ysabel Jurado, Presiding Judge Eric Taylor of the LA Superior Court, Neighborhood Prosecutor, and my friend Cynthia Gonzalez, and Executive Director of AAPI Equity Alliance, Manjusha Kulkarni, another force to be reckoned with. And I'd like to thank Senior Entertainment Attorney Marjorie Williams for all that she does for the community and beyond, especially for her time here today. And I'd like to also finally thank in this section the Director of Immigrant Justice, the Director of the Immigrant Justice Clinic at Loyola Law School. She also serves as our Civil Rights Commissioner, Marissa Montes. We will have speakers in this section, and then we have a breakout room. You will find Brian Walker, who is the CEO of Picture Motion, Diego Cartagena, who's the president and CEO of Bedsetic Legal Services, a place I once worked, Deputy City Attorney Phil Lamb, who worked with me at the City Attorney's Office, is a great resource, and Shalak Richards, who is the Dean for Student Life, Diversity, and Belonging at my beloved alma mater, Pepperdine School of Law, DeAndre Aubrey, who is the founder and CEO of Legally Fit, great operation, and Nadia Dunez, who is the Dean of Students and Diversity at Southwestern Law School, Jennifer O'Connor of the Law School Admissions Council, Kath Rogers of USC Agents of Change. She's also with the ACLU, and Tony Talbert, the Assistant Director of Admissions for UCLA Law. We have quite a slate of speakers today. Every single one of those names I mentioned is someone who has been through law school and has built a career in the legal field, and they are here today to help you. I was able to get my law degree at Pepperdine School of Law, and I did my undergrad and my graduate degree, my master's degree at Cal State LA, and I had the privilege of being with my friends at Cal State LA last night for an alumni dinner. Having a law degree, I'll just say this, has enabled me to provide justice for those who have been wronged, serve my community, and of course, lead LA's first civil rights department. But law school was not something I always considered. When I was growing up, my family faced some of the issues that a lot of families face. We dealt with housing insecurity, moved a lot. I lived with both my grandparents, aunts, and even family friends. At some point, I had to change schools. I had to change schools a lot and didn't always get the A grade. I didn't know any lawyers, and I thought law school was something for other kids from other neighborhoods. And that was what they got to do, not for me. And law is my second career. And so one thing that we want to do here today is not only to help our young folks that are in high school, maybe even middle school, high school, or even working on their undergraduate degrees. We are interested in recruiting people to law school that are looking at law as a second career. But I want to be very clear that although I didn't think I was going to go to law school ever, because I didn't know any lawyers, and I didn't think law school was for me, I am only here today because in key moments in my life, someone believed in me and someone showed me that this is what I could do. And that is what today is all about. LA Law Day is about changing the odds for LA's youth and folks from all ages. You should know that we really want to be poverty disruptors. We want to focus on upward mobility programming and to get more people into the middle class and beyond. Today, we will demystify the process of applying to law school. We will share some of the amazing careers you can build with a law degree and provide tools for students and parents to get in and get through law school. Most importantly, we will have lawyers from diverse backgrounds to share why you should consider a legal career. Having a law degree is not just a way to get into the middle class and beyond, but a powerful way to serve your community. Every time I would enter the courtroom as a city attorney and say, Capri, Maddox for the people, Your Honor, I remembered who I was there to serve and the incredible power that lawyers have to make a difference. So as we continue through this fun and inspiring day, I wanted to let you all to never count yourselves out because your voices are needed in the legal field. This week, we saw Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson become the first Supreme Court Justice. The first Black woman to serve on the highest court in our nation. And of course, in March, we saw Justice Patricia Jurado become the first Latina sworn into the California Supreme Court. Their story as public school students, trailblazers, and women of color is their power. And your story, no matter who you are or where you come from, will make you a better lawyer and a better judge or whatever you decide to do. I want you to see your story and your life experiences as assets to this process. Our democracy depends on a legal system that serves and represents all people. And we need more diverse voices behind the bench and in the courtroom to bring our nation closer to the ideas of liberty and justice for all. So while Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson and Justice Patricia Jurado are the first, we know they are not the last. I hope you make the most of today and stay in touch with us for more opportunities from LA Civil Rights. I want you to know that you can follow us at LA Civil Rights. And with that, I'd like to introduce the wonderful Councilmember Paul Krekorian, who is a Los Angeles City Council member for District 2, an incredible leader. He is a public servant and a law school graduate. Councilmember Krekorian, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Capri. First of all, thank you for that inspiring message to start the day off. It's always a difficult task to speak after the always inspiring Capri Maddox, but I very much appreciate your comments, and I appreciate you and everybody at LA Civil Rights putting this program together so that we can all come together and learn from one another, and for giving me an opportunity to be a part of it. The law matters and lawyers matter now more than ever. We're living in a time right now of great challenge in many areas in our society, and we're living in a time of great divisiveness. And now more than ever, we really need the next generation of leaders to step up and be warriors for our constitutional democracy and everything that means. And it's very inspiring to see so many young people be a part of today's program who are interested in pursuing the law. Lawyers are leaders. Lawyers are champions of justice, no matter what area of law they're practicing in. And lawyers are change makers. And having a law degree gives you a tremendous opportunity to amplify your voice in ways that other careers may not. So I'm really, really excited and inspired to see all of you here and interested in learning more about it. I thought I would just share a little bit about my own path and a few thoughts. My story is similar actually to Capri's, because I didn't know any lawyers growing up. I'm the grandson of immigrants. No one in my family had gone to college, at least not in this country. So I really didn't know the path forward at all. I didn't have anybody there to kind of guide me and say, these are the steps that you need to take. Yet early on, I decided that I wanted to be a lawyer. And so I was fortunate through hard work in high school to be able to get an opportunity to be the first in the family to go to college. I went to USC, and going to USC gave me the opportunity to be exposed to government and politics. I was a political science student, and I got some internships and things that kind of really set me on the path to a career in public service. And my plan was that I would use my USC education to then go to law school and practice law for a couple of years and then go into government. And I was successful in part of that plan because I was able to go to law school at Berkeley and then started my law career. But fortunately or unfortunately, once I was starting that practice of law, I just kind of stayed in the practice of law. And 20 years later, I was still practicing. And that's when I was able to really come back and pursue my real dream, which was to run for public office. And I was elected to the Burbank Board of Education. And then from there, I was elected to the California State Legislature, served in the State Assembly, and a few years later came down to serve on the Los Angeles City Council as the first Armenian American ever elected in Los Angeles. And so that was a long journey to get here, but the law was central to all of it. It's not a prerequisite at all to government service at all. In the old days, it kind of was, not so much anymore. But I will say that having a law career did open a lot of doors for me. It gave me an ability to make a living so that I could run for office, and so it was an important step in getting me there. There's a few things I learned along the way that I wanted to share with you, and I unfortunately won't be able to be in the breakout room, so I just thought I'd share a few thoughts now. The first is, if you're interested in pursuing the law, try to learn as much about the law before you begin studying law. Learn what the career options are. Learn how many different kinds of careers you can make out of a law degree. When I started law school, the only thing I really knew about law careers is what I'd seen on TV, and it was all litigation. It was all people in courts, and that's not all that a law degree is. You can do many things. Whatever your passion is, whatever your interest is, you can find a way to pursue it through the law, and it isn't all just about litigation. Second thing is, it's very important, no matter what your background is, to find mentors. You have to find the path that you want to pursue, and then identify the people who have already pursued that path and learn from them. And believe me when I tell you this, people want to help you. And a lot of times, to Capri's point about thinking this is for other people, no, there are countless people out there who want to lift you up, who want to give you an opportunity to have the same kind of opportunities that they have. You just need to find them, and that's on you. You need to do the work to reach out and identify people who've pursued those paths and find them. You need to develop a plan for yourself, but you also need to be ready to change that plan, because you're going to have ups and downs. You're going to have things that you thought you wanted, and it turns out you didn't. It's not really what you like. You're going to have things that you thought, you wanted to pursue, and then you hit some sort of an obstacle and you needed to divert from that path. That's okay. Just be persistent. Have your plan, be persistent. Don't let setbacks get you down, and you will succeed. And then the final thing I would just say is law school is not just a destination. It's an incredible gift, an incredible rare opportunity that when you get it, you have to make the most out of it. You have to pursue excellence always. You have to do the best you can to get the best grades you can, to be involved in the things that will help you in your career, whether it's being on the law review or being part of student organizations or being part of a legal clinic that does advocacy. You have to do the things that you need to do to draw out excellence in yourself and to make that apparent to everyone else. Because when you're in your career, people are not there to make your dreams come true. You are there to do that. And you do that through excellence. And you have a great opportunity to do that as a law student. So I really am so excited for all of you. And I'm looking forward to see where the people who are part of this call and pursuing their career will end up in 10 years and in 20 years and in 30 years, because I know this for sure. Our society needs you. And when you are pursuing this career, you're going to make a difference in shaping the future, not just of your family, not just of future generations in your family, although certainly that, but also you're going to be shaping the future of our city and our state and our nation. And for that, I want to thank all of you for what you're about to embark upon.
Thank you so much, Councilman Krekorian, for those inspirational words and those tips. I am now honored to introduce a public interest attorney and a commissioner from our Human Relations Commission, Ysabel Jurado. Commissioner.
Thank you so much, Executive Director Capri, and to the staff for putting on this wonderful event, and for all of you for being here on a really early on a Saturday morning and giving up your time. It just shows how dedicated you all are and interested in this legal path, and excited for all of you for all these great speakers. One of the central themes today, and I hope that you can all leave inspired, is we all want you to start thinking, why not you? And it wasn't that long ago that I was in your same shoes. And like Capri and Councilmember Krekorian, my motivations for wanting, my motivations for wanting to become a lawyer wasn't because I saw something on TV. Law wasn't a vague, abstract principle. In fact, it like animated my daily life. As a daughter of immigrant parents, one of whom remained undocumented during my childhood, the law was, omnipresent. It was everywhere. It was like the boogeyman, it was kind of like haunting us a little bit everywhere, always there. But coincidentally, whenever you needed the law to protect my family, in instances of wage theft or racial discrimination, the law seemed to be really elusive for us. But when it could have the harshest consequences for my family, like, when it came to issues of immigration and deportation, which were really scary, apparently it was very present. And part of, what I was trying to reconcile is like, how could this be, is that the law wasn't accessible to us when we needed it the most. And partially, that's something that is something that I strive for in my career as a lawyer. And so Law Day is about making this legal career more accessible to you. Now, I took a windy path. I wasn't laser focused in high school with becoming a lawyer, but I definitely, informed by my family's experiences, was like, I want to fix these issues that my family faced and other families like mine did. So I started off as a community organizer in historic Filipino town. I worked at City Hall and politics for a little bit. I still wasn't sure, but part of, my uncertainty was I was thinking, why me? I didn't think I could be there. I didn't have people near me or a network that I could tap into of people to say, you could be a lawyer. I'm born and raised from LA. I'm from Highland Park. I still am. And I was there before it was cool. And I became a mom early on in my life. And I went to community college. So I felt like all of the why I couldn't do it, right? But really what helped change, my perception of I couldn't possibly be a lawyer to why not me started, with hard work and dedication, of course, but also like with Councilmember Krekorian said, finding the mentors, right? And that's what you should do here today is these people are here because they want to be here. They want to help you. So if it means dropping in the chat and saying, what's your email, or emailing them, do that and start that early on. That's the little tangible thing that even if this is a tiny idea in your head of like, I want to be a lawyer, just send that email. That person will reach out. You'd be surprised at how many people will. And the second thing I did want to say is that all those things that made my life hard and I felt like obstacles and I thought were reasons why I couldn't be a lawyer were actually reasons I really should become a lawyer, because our diversity requires, our profession requires our diversity, and actually your difference is your strength. Okay, your lived experience adds value and complexity to our legal community, which we need, right? Look at our Supreme Court. Right now, there are 4 women serving on it. And, once asked, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was like, what's the most women that should have in the court? All of them. So, I'm still waiting for that. So all of you need to get ready. Now I have this distinct honor to introduce Honorable Eric Taylor, the presiding judge of the Los Angeles Superior Court. He was born in Sacramento, but raised in Los Angeles, and he went to Dartmouth for undergrad and went to law school at the University of Virginia Law School, a really great law school. Judge Taylor was appointed to the bench in 1998 in the Inglewood Courthouse, and he has received so many awards and accolades. I could name them, one of them being Justice of the Year. But on September 10th, 2020, Judge Taylor was elected to serve as the presiding judge of the Los Angeles Superior Court, which is the largest unified trial court in the nation with 39 courthouses and over 600 courtrooms, all on top of the fact that he's, heading this huge courthouse during the COVID-19 pandemic, which you can imagine is pretty difficult in trying to ensure everyone's due process. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Honorable Judge Taylor.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Ysabel. Can everyone hear me? All right, awesome. So my computer's working. That's a good start. I'm so honored to be here, and I want to wish everyone a good morning. We all have so much to share with you, and that's because we see so much possibility in everyone here. And Law Day is just a terrific event, and I'm honored to be here to address you before things really get rolling. So, I want to join with Capri, my good friend Capri Maddox, who mentioned Justice Guerrero, and I was honored to attend her swearing-in ceremony it's been almost 2 weeks now ago, and also just an avalanche of good feelings about Justice Brown. I mean, that is Justice, a lot of us never thought we would see this happen, and we never thought we'd see Obama get elected, and then he was elected, and so many good things are happening, and the world is changing, and you're in a great place to be right now. And so what I want to do is share with you a little bit about myself, and not to not to just talk about myself because I hate doing that, but since we're sharing our journeys, I think it's important for you. And what I hope you hear from everyone today is not like a playbook for what you should do and what's going to happen for you, but really, sharing the possibilities. I grew up in a way where I didn't think I'd ever land in this chair, and I have a huge job. As mentioned, it was kind of scary when Ysabel mentioned it, but I do run the largest trial court in the nation, and we serve 10 million people in LA County. I have almost 600 bench officers, which is, a lot like herding not cats, but lions. We have 39 courthouses. Our budget is close to $1 billion a year. And I took a couple of econ classes in college, but I didn't think I'd be running $1 billion budget, but here I am. And I serve with the best judiciary in the country, not just the biggest, but the best, because we see some of the most interesting cases in the entire country. I mean, we see the complex cases, we see class actions, everything that can happen in law, we see in Los Angeles. So, it is a true honor to have been elected by my colleagues to serve in the position. So, and I've been on the bench for 25 years, believe it or not. I started when I was 35. So I think that's kind of like a baby in law, but I practiced for 10 years before being appointed to the bench in 1998. And I've had a number of jobs, the president of the California Judges Association. I did that twice. I was a supervising judge for the Southwest District, which is Inglewood on down to Palos Verdes. And it's been amazing. I mean, I have a job where I get to change people's lives every single day. I get a chance to do good, and that's a really distinct honor. And so, being in the position is challenging. I mean, I have long days and long nights, and but I love going to my job, and I never thought I would have a job, because the job's not supposed to be fun, where I truly enjoy my work, and it's very, very rewarding. So let me tell you a little bit about how I got here. I'll do that in 60 seconds. I should not be in this chair. I shouldn't be here. This shouldn't be my giant office. But I grew up in the Crenshaw district in something called the Jungle, which is some of you may know it, some of you may not, but it's runs along King Boulevard and runs over to Dorsey, and I went to Audubon, junior high, middle school now. And I was fortunate enough to have teachers, thank God, recognize me as someone who they could bring along and help me get scholarships. And I ended up going to Dartmouth College, the University of Virginia. Each time was a different challenge, but all I knew was that I was going to get older regardless. It was like, what was I going to do at that time? And when I looked back, was I going to say, I made the most of this life, and I saw everything that I wanted to see and experienced everything I wanted to experience. And I wanted people to remember that I mattered on the planet. So, each time I met a challenge, I said, okay, this too will pass, and I will make it over this. I surrounded myself with really good people. You should surround yourself with the people who are on calls like this. Because those people are going to encourage you, are going to help you. The most important people on this journey this morning, it's not us, it's not me, because I'll be retired by the time you make it to this chair, and you will do that in other chairs like this. It's the people around you, because those are the folks that you're going to be able to call later and say, hey, you remember when we went through that thing in class? Or do you remember when this happened? Or, I went through this, struggled with this. And you'll find comfort in those people, and they'll provide you with opportunities and guidance along the way. So that's the first thing I want to share with you. I grew up with in a single parent home. My mom took care of us. My brother and I, we were poor and never had a car. I didn't see the ocean until I was like in middle school, because it was too far to take the bus there. And I was surprised eventually when I saw the ocean was like, 7 miles from my house, and we just never went there. And, and the reason I tell you that is because, I know a lot of you on this call are trying to figure out like where you're going to be and how it's going to happen. I'm here to tell you that anything is possible. Anything's possible. If I can do this, anyone can. It wasn't all easy. I didn't pass the bar the first time, but I brushed myself off and I started studying again. I passed the bar. I'll tell you this, I got fired from my first law firm job, believe it or not. And, and I thanked them because I said I really wasn't happy there anyway. And the firm went under 2 months later, but that's okay. And I already had a job in another firm, Sun and Shine, which is the Denton firm now, a great law firm. And I kept learning from people. I watched others, and that's what you should do today. Went under the county counsel's office, and I was appointed to be a judge 25 years ago, and here I am, the presiding judge of Los Angeles. My colleagues voted me into this position, and I'm truly honored by that. A couple things that I've done, and I have to mention it. I changed the court. I decided that you shouldn't have to look for good mentors I think someone mentioned before, to demystify the process for you, to demystify the path. I think that good fortune should not be based on fortune. It should be based on your skills and your ability and how hard you work. So I started our judicial mentoring program and we have 100 judges who have almost 200 mentoring relationships with attorneys to help them improve their resumes, tell them what they need to do differently to make it to the bench, tell them about the application process, to introduce them to other people that can help them. So we started that, and that is spread throughout the state. It's statewide now in almost every county, and now it's going nationwide. And we did that in less than a year and a half. So even though there was COVID everywhere, we were doing things, and I was not going to let this stop me. My father was a freedom rider, always told me that the courts are so important. They should never close. It's the most important part of our democracy. And I remember that. And we started also a lawyer mentoring program within law firms and lawyers to help less experienced people who don't normally get opportunities, which typically is people of color and women and LGBT folks, because they don't, because they traditionally have not had the strength and mentoring that others have had. So we've collected some of the most dynamic lawyers in this city and started to connect them with less experienced lawyers. And we have to be fair, because I'm with the court, less experienced lawyers, but less experience typically means disadvantaged. To have them take their associates with them to court and let them argue significant issues in court to give them that experience. So I created the Diversity Inclusion Working Group. We have so many programs. You can check out LA Superior Court's website, and you'll start seeing those accomplishments there. So again, thank you for giving me a few minutes to give you some remarks. I love working, but I love this part of my job more than anything. We have a terrific panel this morning. It is really my honor to introduce all of them, and I want you to listen carefully. I know you've heard introductions read to you before, but this time, listen to what they've done. Like, really listen so you know who these folks are, because it is a dynamic panel. And it's not going to tell you this won't tell you what your path will be, because your path will be completely different, but it'll tell you that it's possible. It'll give you some guidance on how other people have made tremendous strides in bringing success to their lives. The first panelist is Marjorie Williams, an entertainment attorney at Johnson, Shapiro, Slewitt, and Cole. All these firms have these different names. I never know how to pronounce all of them. Cole,
I'm gonna Slewitt.
Slewitt, okay. Prior to this, Marjorie worked as the senior business affairs executive at Amazon Studios, where she negotiated above-the-line scripted television deals for Prime Video. Everybody's on Prime, and she's in the background making all this happen. Marjorie is a Los Angeles native who holds a BA from Howard University, a master's from the University of Oklahoma, a Juris Doctorate, JD, that's what you need to be a lawyer, from Loyola Law School, and an executive MBA, Master's of Business, from the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business. Marjorie is also a major in the Air Force Reserves with over 20 years of combined active duty and reserve service supporting operations in Iraq and enduring freedom. Aside from her busy schedule, Marjorie also serves, I don't even need coffee this morning. I'm so excited to tell you about these folks. Marjorie also serves on the board of directors for the U.S. Vets and the John M. Langston Bar Association. That's the African American Bar Association. Marjorie was recognized by the National Bar Association as a top 40 lawyer under 40. I can't achieve that anymore because I'm way over 40. Okay, next we have Marissa Montes, director and co-founder of the Loyola Immigration Justice Clinic. Marissa created the Loyola Immigration Justice Clinic while she was in law school to provide free immigration services on the east side of Los Angeles. And listen to that. These people aren't just joining committees and doing things. They're starting committees. They're starting action plans to give others possibilities. Marissa was then awarded Loyola's Public Interest Fellowship to establish the clinic and develop its immigration lawyering curriculum for law students. Marissa is a professor at Loyola Law School, where she teaches a course on cross-cultural competency and trauma-informed lawyering, and leads the law school's
It should be the Immigration Law and Border Practicum.
In El Paso, Texas. Sorry, my paper is crumbled here. She also teaches U.S. asylum law at the ITESO in Guadalajara, Mexico, and serves at migrant shelters. Marissa also has been recognized as a top young lawyer by the American Bar Association and serves on the LA City Commission on Civil Rights. We also have Cynthia Gonzalez, neighborhood prosecutor for the Hollenbeck area, born and raised in El Monte. Cynthia was the first member of her family to attend college. Join that club, Sylvia, I'm with you. Cynthia, I'm with you. Obtaining both her bachelor's degree and law degree from UCLA. While in law school, Cynthia externed at the LA County Office of Independent Review and the LA County Public Defender's Office. Before joining the city attorney's office, Cynthia worked as a public defender for the Committee for Public Counsel Services in Massachusetts. As a neighborhood prosecutor, Cynthia works with law enforcement and the community to improve the quality of life by offering a proactive approach to resolving problems. Next, we have Manjusha Kulkarni. Did I get that right? I've been practicing. Executive Director of the AAPI, the Asian American and Pacific Islander Equity Alliance, previously known as the Asian Pacific Planning and Policy Council. She's a graduate from Boston University Law School. Manju has worked at the Southern Poverty Law Center, the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, the Mexican American Legal Defense and Education Fund, MALDEF, and many others. Manju's work as a public interest attorney led her to nonprofit work, like leading the AAPI Equity Alliance. In March 2020, Manju co-founded Stop AAP Hate, the nation's leading aggregator of COVID-19 related hate incidents against AAPIs. In 2021, Manju was recognized by Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential individuals. Manju also serves on the LA City's Ethics Commission. What an incredible panel of attorneys we have this morning. And now Capri Maddox. Capri is today's moderator. I'm just going to tell you, she's an outstanding individual, and I got to know her a number of years ago and just know her to be just so committed to improving the lives of our communities in Los Angeles. Capri is the first executive director and general manager of the LA City Civil, Human Rights and Equity Department, also called LA Civil Rights. Born in Los Angeles, Capri attended Cal State LA and Pepperdine Law School before serving as a neighborhood prosecutor for the LA City Attorney. Capri has served as the president of the Los Angeles Board of Public Works, as well as executive director of partnerships at LAUSD, and Senior Advisor to City Attorney Mike Fuhr. In this role, she created the Foster Care Diversion Program organized by the by City Attorney Faith-Based Council, among other work. As the Executive Director of LA Civil Rights, Capri is focused on reducing bias and injustices while leveling the playing field through community engagement, equity initiatives, and upward mobility programs. I am so proud to pass the mic to Executive Director Capri Maddox, my friend.
Thank you so much, Judge Taylor, for that warm welcome and for introducing our distinguished guests. Again, just to have Attorney Cynthia Gonzalez, Attorney Manjusha Kulkarni, Attorney Marissa Montes, and Attorney Marjorie Williams with us this morning just really means so much to me. We curated this group of folks to speak to our youth and those that are considering changing careers to become attorneys. And I have a few questions for all of you, and I'll kind of make sure that we keep an eye on the chat to see if we have questions coming in from our guests. But I'm going to start with the question for all the panelists. And I just want to know, why did you first pursue a legal career, and how has your journey changed since becoming an attorney? I'll start with Marjorie. See, Marjorie's one of my good friends. So Marjorie.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So in terms of, I think, why I pursued a legal career, as you can tell by my background, I've kind of made a lot of twists and turns. I think to Ms. Maddox's comment earlier, you start one place, but that doesn't mean that that's where you're going to end up. And that is true for me. So I thought I actually, my background is in service and obviously the military. And I thought I was going to become an international lawyer, possibly pursuing human rights law and environmental law, and fell into entertainment after studying treaties. For me, I think the best thing about it is still the ability to serve. I'm a transactional attorney, so I'm not a courtroom lawyer. I don't, show up and fight those kind of fights, but I'm still an advocate for my clients. And I think that just kind of underscores who I am as a person. It's just about serving others in the best way that I can.
Thank you so much for that, Marjorie. Commissioner Montes? Same question to you. Why did you first pursue your legal career, and how has your journey changed since becoming an attorney?
Thank you so much, Capri, and good morning, everybody. Buenos dias. I'm actually saying hi to all of you from Ciudad Valle, San Luis Potosí, in La Huasteca Potosina, where my mom is from. It's a very small town. I'm actually at my grandparents' ranch. I'm here this week, or I was in Guadalajara the last week because I was invited to go down there to basically work at a university called Tec de Monterrey and work with migrants in transit. And the reason I bring that up is not only to excuse the fact that you'll probably see many of my family members walking through. That's how Latino families are, especially from El Pueblo, but because it's part of my story. And it's actually funny because I was thinking about it. I think it is actually very powerful that I'm here and having this talk with all of you. I was born in Guadalajara, went to the United States at the age of 2. And it's really the experience of my mother mostly that has motivated me to do this type of work. And now that I'm here, or in the place that she grew up, and get to speak to you all as a lawyer, as a professor, as a commissioner, right? And I know that my story is not necessarily unique, right? And that there's other people out there that are like me. And I'm hoping to show you all that you all can, in fact, make it, right? So it was my experience growing up in the United States as an immigrant that basically served as a catalyst for me to get involved in the immigrant rights movement. And I've been doing immigrant rights work since high school. I feel very fortunate that I knew from a very young age as to what area of law or what I wanted to dedicate myself to. It's not necessary, but it was really that experience that kind of gave me my purpose, right? And from then on, went to law school, and then I went to Loyola. Loyola Law School is where I teach. And the reason why I started the clinic is because at the time we were the only law school in Southern California without an actual immigration clinic. And I feel very lucky that I get to do what I think is the best in both worlds, and I'll talk about it in a little bit, in getting to teach and practice law, right? And my motivation is not only to serve the immigrant community that I hail from, but hopefully motivate students, first generation from immigrant backgrounds, students of color, that you in fact can do this work, and because of your own personal experiences, you are much more well-positioned and in a powerful place to make an impact for your community. So in terms as to what has changed, I still practice immigration law, even though I teach, and I do direct services, but I also very much pride myself, or pride the clinic, in being community-based, on the philosophy of community lawyering or rebellious lawyering, and really trying to empower them, the community, to be the ones to voice their concerns and identify issues. And then us as lawyers to use our tool belt to kind of address it, right? And not limit myself or my students to only the practice of immigration law. So we're happy to talk to any of you offline about it, but something that I hope that you all consider is that once you become lawyers is that you're actually pretty diverse and powerful in what you can do, and you don't have to pigeonhole yourself. And there's different ways in which you can serve the community that you seek to serve in different intersectional areas of law. So that's the one thing that I've taken away and has really kind of changed my legal career where I am now.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. And as you can see, we have a wonderful panel, and even, Judge Taylor, really does so much work for the community as well. I wanted to shout out Good City Mentors as a partnership that we did when I was at LA Unified. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to work with Commissioner Montes, as she is a civil rights commissioner. I think one of the most dynamic people in this town, Manjusha Kulkarni, I'd love to hear, how the legal career really, shaped you and why you decided to even pursue a legal career.
Thanks so much, Capri, for the question. And it's just such an honor to be with you all and to join this esteemed panel, and to join with not only Capri, but with Judge Taylor and with Councilmember Krekorian. And I want to give a special thanks to Mark and the team at the Civil and Human Rights Division for their tremendous efforts in putting together today's event. For me, my interest in the law started actually when I was 10 years old. And not actually because of good circumstances, but I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama, and my parents both happened to be physicians, and I was going to be a doctor just like them. But what happened was my mom was being interviewed for a position at a local hospital, and a panel of white male physicians in the interview said to her, "Why do you foreigners come here and take all of our jobs?" Needless to say, they did not give her a position. And so my mother and father hired an attorney, a civil rights attorney, who happened to be on the board of the Southern Poverty Law Center. And they were thankfully able to get a settlement from that. And my mom then was able to practice her craft and use her talents in being a physician. And not only that, it actually was a class action lawsuit that changed the residency program for all foreign medical graduates in Alabama. So I was really proud of what my parents did. And it was because of that that I could see that the law could do good and have a positive impact. It could redress the wrongs and the ills of our society. And so despite my parents' objections, right, they obviously wanted me to follow in their footsteps. I did pursue the law, and certainly they were proud of me when I did that. So, in my various roles in pursuing civil rights law and health law, I've really tried to use my legal skills to advocate on behalf of marginalized communities. And I think that, you know, it's such an important tool for doing the work that we need to do to bring justice, to bring equity to communities of color, to LGBTQ folks, to women, and so many parts of our community that, you know, as Judge Taylor said, you know, many of us were not supposed to be here. Our institutions were not created with us in mind. In fact, they were created for us to be less than citizens, for us, many of us to not even be in the United States until recently. So for me, the law is really central to my being. And so I think of that as I practice law every single day.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your words and your story. It really, you know, shaped who you are and what you do for Los Angeles and beyond. You know, again, just wanted to highlight that we have so many great speakers on our panel today, and we're very, very grateful for their service. Same question for our last panelist, Cynthia. I wanted to know why did you first pursue a legal career, and how has your journey changed since becoming a lawyer?
Sure. Thank you, Capri, and good morning to everyone. I feel super, extremely honored to be part of this panel. So I grew up in El Monte. I was a daughter of immigrants. My parents came from Mexico, from a town, Arandas, in the 70s. And growing up, my parents, they never received any education. They didn't know how to read. They were Spanish speaking only. And in El Monte, growing up, I felt like I was in a bubble. So kind of what Judge Taylor said earlier, you grow up, I had never seen the beach growing up until I got to college. It's something that, so El Monte is predominantly Latino, predominantly immigrant. So I thought the world looked like El Monte. And in El Monte, unfortunately, there was a lot of crime at the time. There was a lot of gang violence. Even some of my family members got wrapped up in that criminal justice system. And seeing some of the injustices with law enforcement and the criminal justice system in general with the Latinos, and, you know, knowing that Spanish was always a barrier. The fact that, you know, some of the people I knew that were being represented by public defenders the public defenders couldn't communicate with family members. I was young. I was like 10, 11 years old when I would go to court with some of my family members trying to figure out what was happening. And, you know, there's a lot of confusion within our community about how the criminal justice system works. And I always thought I could be a voice. So I wanted to be a public defender. That was my goal. I said, I want to be the one advocating for these people. I know it's not easy. I know there's a reason why people do the things that they do, and to try to break the cycle. So I did become a public defender initially, and it was amazing. I got to advocate. I got to really know my clients. But then I realized that I was kind of, I was limited in what I could do, because at the end of the day, I knew this person was going to go back to their community. And sometimes it was a community that was encouraging criminal activity. So I had the unique opportunity to be part of the neighborhood prosecutor program. And so now I'm a neighborhood prosecutor. And what I do is I get to actually be a public defender of the community. So that's what I sort of call myself. I like to advocate. I'm part of the Hollenbeck community, which is very much like El Monte, predominantly Latino, predominantly immigrant, a lot of first generation students there. And I try to empower the community with tools so that they can succeed, so that they know, to educate them on the laws, and in any way that I can to try to bring resources to the community. So that's how it's changed. And I started as a public defender for one person, and now I'm a public defender for the community. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you so much, Cynthia. And I remember when you interviewed to become a neighborhood prosecutor, and the fact that you were a former public defender was just, one of the points that really encouraged us to, want to bring you on board to the city attorney's office. And Mr. Mike Fuhr is so lucky to have you on his team. And the other thing is I wanted to shout out, I think we have a couple other neighborhood prosecutors on the line. I know I saw Khalil Rashid, who's also joined us as one of the lead neighborhood prosecutors. So very grateful for you, for your continued service. And I'd like to get to some of the questions, specific questions for some of our speakers. Manju, you lead a major nonprofit organization serving Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, and you co-founded the National Stop AAPI Hate Network. Tell us about how your background in law served you for this work.
Yeah, thank you, Capri, for that question. So as you mentioned, AAPI Equity Alliance, we are a coalition of over 40 community-based organizations that serve and represent the 1.5 million AAPIs in Los Angeles County. In 2020, we began to see hate incidents against individuals in our community just because of their race. In fact, there was a middle school child here in Los Angeles who was physically attacked and verbally assaulted on the schoolyard. He was accused of having COVID-19 and told to go back to China. And when he said he was not Chinese, he was punched and beaten in the head 20 times by another child. So we started Stop AAPI Hate, and unfortunately, in creating this reporting center, we've received over 11,000 incident reports from all 50 states in the District of Columbia since 2020 through December of 2021. And the way in which we've used, and I've used my legal skills, is to look at the cases we've seen and help to develop policy. And so right now we actually have 3 bills in the California legislature to address in non-carceral ways the hate that our communities are experiencing. So we have 1 bill on street harassment, which we know all women face during their lifetime. So finding a public health approach to that, trying to ensure rider safety and civil rights actually at businesses across California. And one thing I was able to do earlier in my career, and just to share what kind of impact you can have as a lawyer, when I was practicing health law, there in the Medi-Cal and Healthy Families programs, especially in Healthy Families, there was a rule regarding eligibility that kept a lot of kids from getting health insurance. And so by recommending one change through the notice and comment process, that change that I recommended, it was less than a sentence. That change, which was adopted, positively impacted 50,000 kids in California. So 50,000 children were able to get healthcare coverage because of that. And that's what the law can do. And so, I mean, I'm really proud of that fact. I think also when we look at the law, understanding, as I said before, policies, our governmental policies that impact so many of us on in our day-to-day lives, critical thinking skills, right? Which all of us need, no matter what work we do. That's important. And I think one of the real benefits too of going to law school. And the last thing I'll just say is, on a personal level, we come into contact with the law every single day. How is that? When we put a new app on our phones, we've got to agree to what's said, right? There's a lot of legal language. When we buy a home or we rent an apartment, it's all legal language that's in the lease or the mortgage. So many of our panelists have talked about helping their families and communities. And so we do that by understanding documents when we go to the doctor, when we understand what happens in terms of our immigration system. So, I'm so happy that I went to law school for all of those reasons. in addition to my legal career and enabling me to use those skills in changing policy in California.
Thank you so much, Manju, and thank you for being a difference maker in so many ways. Commissioner Montes, you founded an immigration law clinic while you were in law school. Can you share with us what a law clinic is and what motivated you to create one?
Yes, of course. I'm super passionate about clinical education, and I love talking about it specifically to prospective law students. So a law clinic is basically your experience in law school to really learn to what it's like to be a lawyer, right? I always tell students it's more like practicing law in slow motion, right? Many law schools offer clinics. Loyola offers over 20 of them in all sorts of areas. I direct the immigration law clinic, but we also have like the juvenile justice clinic. We have a tax clinic, a fashion law clinic, basically any area of law that you're interested in, right? And the whole point of a clinic is for you to gain the practical skills so when you graduate, you can hit the ground running. So basically the way it works is the students enroll into the clinic, and at least when they're working with me, you actually get a client and you represent the client from start to finish. You do everything from the initial retainer to client interviewing, you go to court with them, you make the court appearances, you attend the immigration interviews. And it's also a way for you to see like how you can use your law degree to really make an impact in your community. The reason why I was super interested in clinical education is I went to undergrad, I went to USC as well. And when I was undergrad, I worked at the USC Immigration Clinic, and I thought the professor there, who was a mentor of mine, Professor Niels Frentzen, had the coolest job ever, right? Because he got to work with both students and work with clients. And I told him that one day I wanted to take his job as a joke. It just so happened that I had the opportunity to do so, but at Loyola. And as I mentioned before, the reason we started the immigration clinic at Loyola is because we were the only law school at the time without an immigration clinic. And Loyola also has a very strong public interest background. At the time, we were ranked #2 in the nation when it came to do public interest law. I don't know what our ranking is now, but I know it's pretty high up there. And then we thought, like, how is it that a school in LA with such a strong mission in social justice that does great work doesn't have anything that's serving the immigrant community? So from then, we partnered up specifically with Dolores Mission in Boyle Heights and Homeboy Industries, working in conjunction with the Mexican American Bar Association to at least give free consultations in the community. And from there, we basically realized that there is a big need to serve that community in providing free legal services. Boyle Heights, and specifically, is known as the Ellis Island of the West Coast, where all sorts of immigrant waves have gone through there. And it has a population that's primarily of mixed status, so families that have all sorts of different immigration statuses. And we thought it was really important to serve that community because at the time, there wasn't much free immigration legal services. And that is basically what served as the basis for the fellowship project that now is the clinic known as the Loyola Immigrant Justice Clinic. And what's really exciting too is that this year, in conjunction with in coincidence with DACA, we are now celebrating our 10-year anniversary. And since our inception, we've had over 100 students involved, and we've served over 10,000 community members and free consultations, and we have maintained about a 95% success rate. So I really encourage you all that if you're interested in going to law school, look at their clinical education program and see if there is a clinical offering in an area of law that you are interested in. Many of you may not know what areas of law you want to practice yet, but the great thing about clinical education as well is that your skills are transferable, right? So like knowing how to make a court appearance, knowing how to file things, knowing how to interview your client. All of those things are applicable in whatever area of law that you practice. And of course, if anyone has any questions about clinical education, I also think we're the best part of law school. As someone who wasn't the biggest fan of law school and somehow stayed, I think we are really the best and the most fun part, because like I said, it's your opportunity to know what it's like to be a lawyer before you're one.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. And I really like the fact that you told people to look at the clinical law options at the various law schools. And if you do find one that is interesting to you early on, put it in your application. I think that's really good advice. And if you happen to know which area of law you're interested in, that would be just super helpful. So thank you again, Commissioner, for your story. And now we are going to turn to Marjorie. And I had the privilege of being Marjorie's mentor when she was in law school, but she's been raising me and growing me up ever since. And I am so grateful for someone so multifaceted to be in the law. And Marjorie, you've had a journey, quite the journey actually, to becoming an entertainment attorney. Tell us how you got there and what you like most about your role as an entertainment lawyer.
Sure. So just a little bit about my background. I was born, my dad was in Watts. My mom was a teacher and lived in the South Bay. And so I grew up really between Watts and like the Harbor City, Torrance area. Took me to Howard and my dad was a blue collar welder. My mom was a teacher. So I didn't come from a family of attorneys, but I loved the Cosby Show back in the day, and I idolized Claire Huxtable. And so for me, I'm in my 40s, that was the aspirational family on TV, and so that was literally how I decided to become a lawyer. Cut to went to the military and took a little bit of a detour, which was great because I think it gave me the life skills and just a little bit more understanding about how the world worked and a worldview, having lived overseas and worked abroad. And so when I came back home, I was encouraged to go to law school because of what was going on with like Guantanamo Bay and all of the things that the military was doing. And so I thought I was going to pursue, in human rights law. I studied at the United Nations Institute of Peace down in Costa Rica, studied environmental law and studied treaties. And ironically, from studying treaties, there was some overlap in terms of intellectual property because there's a thing called the Berne Convention. And so again, I think to all of these esteemed panelists' points, a large part of law school is just being open to experiences. You may come in with, one idea about one focus and what you want to do, and that's great if you do know that. But also, I think the practical part of law school, to Commissioner Montes's point, is just as valuable, if not even more so, to helping you figure out what you want to do. And so from that experience, I was offered an internship at NBC, working on what I thought was going to be the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and really kind of compliance to give me some international experience. And I just happened to do a good job there. And so NBC invited me back for another internship. And so that is what set me on my path to become an entertainment attorney. I also came out during the recession back in 2008. And so there was a hiring freeze with the government because, again, I thought I was going to end up at the city attorney's office, maybe doing some, white collar anti-terrorism prosecution, which is why, Executive Director Maddox was one of my, mentors and idols when I was in law school, but the government had a hiring freeze. And so again, because I'd had this entertainment experience on my resume, I was able to start temping around town while I was waiting on bar results. And from me just temping at Viacom at the time, they ultimately ended up creating a position for a junior attorney when the upcoming fiscal year came on. And so my first job, I started actually at BET working on shows like The Game, the BET Award shows, even worked on a movie. And so, obviously a very different path from what I thought I was going to do. And, from there, I've just through relationships and prior, employers have kind of moved around. So I've worked at a talent agency where we brought people like Kevin Hart and Issa Rae and Post Malone. I've worked at production companies where we produce things like MasterChef and Big Brother. My law firm right now, I went back to the representation side. So some of my clients are everyone from Tyler Perry to Mindy Kaling to LeBron James's production company. And I think for me, at the end of the day, like the thing that I like the most is on this side of things, it's really collaborative. I think I'm a person who's always been interested in teams, who's always been interested in collaboration, and who's always been interested in business. And so I get to marry, the law along with business. And then I think also, and I think I saw a question in the chat from Sylvia, and it was about, how I've been able to incorporate public service and, affecting kind of policies in my practice. And I think on the entertainment side, and I think as, Executive Director Maddox knows, oftentimes when you're pushing political agendas, it's always helpful to have celebrities or a familiar face attached to it, whether it's fundraising, whether it's changing, existing policies within your industry. And so I know one of my firm's current clients, Michael B. Jordan, was very instrumental in getting what we call an inclusion rider implemented within the entertainment industry. And what that did is that mandated that, on these on these films, if he was going to be attached to participate, there was going to have to be a minimum number of women and people of color that were going to be a part of that film. And so again, like those are things behind the scenes that a lot of people don't realize. A lot of celebrities obviously have influence. And so we can help them, really write out these kind of proposals to help the industry change and really just do better.
Thank you so much, Marjorie. Marjorie, I'm so grateful for you and for all that you do. And she's someone that could do any and everything. And she does her work with the legal community through the entertainment lens, but also lifting up social justice issues and causes. I am reminded that we definitely need to remember that law school is not the destination. I think Councilmember Krekorian said that early on. So we need to be mindful that once you get into law school, look at other opportunities. Like Margie said, she went to Costa Rica and did so many amazing internships. Definitely want to ask a quick question of Cynthia, and I want to, then have a lightning round question for all of our guests. Okay, so Cynthia, your legal career took you to public service. What does a neighborhood prosecutor do, and how has being an attorney helped you serve your community?
Sure, thank you, Capri. So being a neighborhood prosecutor program is such a unique program. I had no idea it existed during law school. I don't even know if it existed during law school, but it's such an empowering program for low-income communities, especially communities like Boyle Heights. I know was mentioned earlier, the great need for free legal immigration services. But basically what there's one neighborhood prosecutor assigned to each LAPD police division. And what we do is we problem solve. So we're problem solvers. We address quality of life issues. So we attend neighborhood meetings, we attend church meetings, we attend business meetings, and we try to figure out what the root of the problems are that are impacting the quality of life of the different residents that live in the neighborhood. So for example, I also get to start neighborhood watch programs. So I have my group of señoras around Hollenbeck Park that like to walk every morning that now meet on a monthly basis to discuss some of the issues that are happening in Hollenbeck Park, how to make it a better park, a safer park, how to bring resources to the park. So I meet with them, I talk to them about the different city services. And then at the same time, if there's a problematic person that continues to trespass or continues to vandalize, I get to use my prosecutor hat, and maybe I have to prosecute him. Maybe I do have to file a case against him. It's very unfortunate, but a lot of times we have to use the criminal justice system to address mental health issues or substance abuse issues. So I get to do vertical prosecution. And what that means is I get to take a case from the beginning to the end. And the best thing about my job is that all of my cases, I know exactly what I'm prosecuting. So I know the community that's being impacted by this prosecution. I know maybe the background on the person. I know maybe their family. So it's a very unique program and a very unique prosecutor role, right? Most of us think as prosecutors we're in court every day, just recommending sentences or plea bargaining. This is a program where we carry our own caseload and we get to work directly with the community. So for example, this past week, I taught a class at the LAPD Community Civilian Academy at Hollenbeck, talking about my role as a neighborhood prosecutor. I also participated in another Law Day event at ELAC 2 weeks ago. I also get to attend neighborhood watch meetings. So it's a great opportunity. I use my Spanish almost every day in my job at Hollenbeck. And a lot of the community members have become my friends, and I look at them as sometimes tias, sometimes abuelitas, sometimes like tios, and I'm always excited to go to work and to see my family. And on top of that, I also have the law enforcement side. So as a public defender, it was a little weird, right? Because a public defender, you're always on the other side of law enforcement. So as a prosecutor and working out of a police station, I have the unique opportunity to really bring my background into the police department and really work with law enforcement, great officers, and really work with the community. And I do roll call trainings. Sometimes I bring up problem locations to law enforcement where the people are afraid to report to police. People are afraid to talk to police because maybe of their immigration status, or maybe they've been victims of domestic violence. And it's a really great, unique opportunity that I get to advocate for one person and for the entire community. So that's what the neighborhood prosecutor program is. And I'm sure it's a little bit different in every division. So every neighborhood prosecutor maybe has a different type of neighborhood that they serve, but at least in mine, it feels like it's where I grew up. So it's really fun and it's really unique. And I know there was a question in the chat about how many times I get to interact with stakeholders. It's every day. So I come back to work on Monday, and on Monday morning, I will have at least 5-7 voicemails from the community asking for different questions, landlord-tenant issues, immigration issues, anything. And it's really exciting to get to research a little bit of everything and be a little expert on every part of the law.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much, Cynthia, and thank you for your continued service and how you lift all communities, and you represent the best of your hometown of El Monte and the city attorney's office as well. We are running short on time. I definitely want to provide an opportunity for questions from the audience and look at to see if we have more questions in the chat. But lightning round, if you all could go back and give yourself one piece of advice when you were first considering law school, what would it be? I'll let you all have a sentence each in this space. If you could go back to law school and give yourself one piece of advice when you were first considering law school, what would it be? We're going to go with Cynthia, Marjorie, Commissioner Montes, and Manju. So in that order, what was the one piece of advice you would give yourself when considering law school? Go.
Piece of advice: networking. How important it is to network and to stay in touch with the contacts that you make. Make sure you do follow-up emails, you do follow-up calls, follow-up coffee dates, and network. It is super, super important.
Good. Marjorie?
I would say put your family on notice. Like I said, I didn't come from a family of lawyers, so you know, having been gone as long as I was gone between, you know, the military and, you know, college, when I came back, they just thought it was a free for all and, oh, you're going to come over for, you know, dinner every other day and, you know, that sort of thing. And you really have to focus. And I think some of my friends got it, some didn't, but it was a lot harder for me to push back against just my family wanting to see me. So, let them know like it's serious, it's expensive, and it's a lot of time and commitment. And we still, you know, it's still love, but I can't see you all the time.
That's great advice, especially for our first generation of law students. Commissioner.
Yes, I just first want to say that I echo both of those completely. It's so important. It's all about who you know. Trust me, like my family right now asking me what I'm doing, you know, they'll always be a part of us, but they sometimes don't understand. So we got to set those boundaries, right? I know there was only supposed to be one, but I have 3 really quick ones. One, you got to carve your own path. Everyone's going to give you advice about what you're supposed to do, where you're supposed to go to law school, if you're going to do law review, moot court, whatever. Do what is best for you, because that's how you will succeed. And I promise you that you will become a lawyer. Promise you. 2, haters are going to hate. You know, unfortunately, especially I can tell you as my experience as a woman of color, you will be doubted, you will be questioned, and that imposter syndrome is going to kick in, right? And just know that you have a purpose, you are going to make it, and you are going to make a difference. And when that imposter syndrome does kick in, give it its space, acknowledge it, and then you got to let it go. And that's the number one thing that I still deal with in my career all the time. And I admit it to my students. And just real talk, you just got to give it space and let it go.
All right, Manju, thank you so much,
Yes.
Commissioner.
Along those same lines, have confidence in yourself and your abilities. If you work hard, you go into class every day, you go to your interviews, have the confidence that other students have, because they have it. They sometimes have too much of it. But you need to go there, go into those spaces and know you can do it. You can do just as well as other folks, and you can do better. And we saw that with soon to be Justice Jackson Brown. She said the same things, and she made it. And I think I'm so excited to hear about what all of you will be doing as our next generation of lawyers and leaders. And I know that you are everything you need to be.
Thank you so much. That was just fabulous. I love the lightning round. And I think we'd like to yield the floor to see if anyone has any questions from the audience, or if there's any information that was in the chat. I'm trying to catch up here. Raise your hand or.
Thank you, Capri. I've actually made note of some of them. So this is directed to all the current panelists. How did you decide on the specific area of law that you wanted to pursue? Anyone is welcome to go first.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of touched upon it, but I think what I didn't also share was my other experiences while I was in law school. So I also interned at the DA's office, both when Kamala Harris was the DA up in the Bay, and then down here in Inglewood in the Juvenile Justice Clinic. And I think to that point, those experiences not only help you figure out what you don't want to do, but they also help you figure out what you do want to do. They also help you figure out what you don't want to do. And so again, a lot of us, we just don't come from, experiences where we're sitting around the table talking about, your uncle who is this type of, law practitioner, or your mother who's that type. And so I think, again, I think it was Commissioner Montes who's the first person who raised it, but just doing those practicums, talking to professors also, because they all had a life outside of the law before they came to be a professor, going to office hours, that's really helpful as well. And you can kind of drill down into what it means to be the type of lawyer that they are.
Okay, it seems like there's been a hacking incident that's happening right now. And so I'm turning off my screen, but I would like to know if we have any other questions. Araxia, could you continue?
Thank you, Capri. We do have another question from Ms. Williams. If you can specify how you specifically broke into entertainment law.
Yeah, that's that's a very complicated and nuanced. And the reason I say that is there's no one path to get there. And so in entertainment, it's definitely a lot about networking. And for me, again, just being able to talk to people as a student is what helped me really understand what all was out there, because a lot of people don't realize how many opportunities there are within the entertainment field. You can work again for companies, so you don't have to represent individual people. You can represent in the, in the music space, in the film space. And so for me, it was actually being at a birthday party with this couple that owned the temp agency that extended an opportunity to me. And again, this was like a birthday party for a friend who was in the military. So nothing to do with the entertainment industry. What I also suggest though to students is, because you're like, well, how do I network? What does that mean? And so attending, different events, whether it's a law day that's such as this, or I don't know if you've heard us mention things called the bar associations, but those are organizations of different types of lawyers. And most of the time for students, it's free to join. And so there are things like the Beverly Hills Bar Association or the Langston Bar Association, which is I'm a part of, or the Mexican American Bar Association. I mean, women and, women lawyers, there's a tons of them that are out there. And so I recommend just reaching out to those various organizations and letting them know that you have an interest in this field of law, and seeing if, there are people that are part of those organizations that'd be willing to talk to you. And then from there, there's internships. And so, that's the starting point for a lot of students also, internships. And if you're in LA, particularly, it's, there's a ton of those out there.
Thank you again, Marjorie. Do we have any other questions? Roxy, are we ready to go to our breakout rooms? I really just wanted to thank all of our panelists for lifting this work and for supporting the next generation of legal leaders. It's been a joy to be with all of you, and I'm asking our students and those that are interested in becoming students once again to follow us in the breakout rooms. You'll get notifications for breakout room opportunities. Wanted to give a special shout out to Moya Fune Shabazz, my college roommate that is thinking hopefully about it, starting a new career. She's a wonderful educator in Compton now, but I just really wanted to say that Law Day is about bringing the next generation of leaders, whether it's your first career, second career, third career. As some of our panelists have shown, it takes a journey, and it's a beautiful journey. And I think it'd be a beautiful journey for all of the students that are here with us. So thank you again to our panelists, and I'll yield the floor over to Araxia to tell us where we're going next.
Thank you so much, Executive Director Capri. Thank you to our wonderful panelists, and then thank you to the attendees who have been so engaged with us so far. Before I speak about our breakout rooms, I did want us to very briefly participate in an icebreaker activity. In just one moment, you will see a poll pop up into your screen, and we're going to answer the question so we can get a feel of who we have with us today. So the first question is, where are you zooming in from? Go ahead and select any one of the answers. I'll give you a minute. The answers are trickling in. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Few more seconds before I share the results with everybody. And here's where everyone's from. 15% are from South LA, 11% are calling in from East LA, 9% are from Central LA, 13% of us are calling in from West LA, and then we have 53% of people not calling in from LA. Thank you for joining us.
Can we have folks put in the chat what cities they're hailing from?
Yes, please share in the chat. Where
wish.
are you coming from? We
I
have
see
our
we have Irvine and Lancaster, Philadelphia, PA, West Philly,
wow.
New York, Detroit, Westwood, Culver City, Delray, Downey, Covina, Boston, Seal Beach, San Bernardino, Afghanistan. Wow, Westminster. Okay, this is great. Keep them coming.
Amazing.
Yes, Araxia, next.
Yes, we have our second question here. Let me go ahead and launch it. Where are you in your educational journey? And I'll give you a moment to reply. A few more seconds before I close the poll. Okay. Here are the results. So 18% are from high school or in high school, 41% are in college, 5% are in graduate school, 5% are in professional school, and 31% of attendees on the call have graduated. Thank you all. And our last question before I speak a little bit about our breakout rooms is, what are you most excited to learn about today? In this poll, you can choose more than one answer. Is it why law school and legal career is important? How to choose a law school, the resources and tips that we have from our expert panelists, how to survive in law schools, and the alternative paths to law school, which are oftentimes not spoken about. Thank you, everybody. I'll give a few more seconds before I close the poll. And here are the results. 51% want to know why law school or a legal career. 51% want to know how to choose a law school. 74% of folks really want to identify the resources and the tips to get them to law school. 54% want to know how they survive law school. And lastly, 37% want to know the alternative paths to law school. Thank you all so much for participating. You're welcome to click the X at the top of that box so we can resume to our main session. And although all of us in the past 2 years have become Zoom experts, I will share some brief instructions as we transition to the second part of our program. In a few minutes, you will see a breakout room icon be popped up at the bottom of your screen, and you have the ability to choose where you attend. So our breakout room panelists, please look out for the breakout room icon and choose the one that you have been pre-assigned. Each one should have their title beside the room number. For our students and attendees on the line, you should look also for the breakout room icon, but you have the ability to actually choose which room you get to join. Just a friendly reminder that we will have 3 rotations of each room and they'll last approximately 30 minutes. Just a reminder for everybody, room 1 will be how I made it and journeys to law school. Room number 2 will be how you survived your first year. We'll have expert panelists speaking about their experiences. And room number 3 will be parents just don't understand what families need to know about choosing a law school. When you do join the law school, the breakout room, you will be greeted by representatives from LA Civil Rights. They'll introduce the topic briefly and the speakers before we transition into an open conversation. We also have our Spanish interpreters joining us in the breakout rooms. So for those that want to listen and join the event by listening in Spanish, feel free to click the interpretation icon at the bottom. I do really want to emphasize before we transition that the goal of these breakout rooms is to allow conversation between the attendees and our amazing breakout room panelists. So please take advantage of the opportunity that you have here. We do have about 2 minutes until 10:40. So why don't we take a very quick break, get up, stretch, grab our coffee, and then we will resume at 10:40 when we open up the breakout rooms.
Thank you, Araxia, and special thanks to our speakers again, and I'm looking forward to the panels, the breakout rooms that we'll have. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy your break.